Hi, everyone. Today I'll introduce the API Request node. Click New to create a node. Open the Network category, select API Request, and create it. Now let's inspect its parameters. The method is currently set to GET. The available methods are GET, POST, PUT, PATCH, and DELETE. For URL, enter the address of the API you want to call. I prepared a test URL for this demonstration. This endpoint returns a JSON array. Save the node, then run the flow once. The request completed successfully. Open latest output to inspect the response. The status code is 200. The output also includes the response headers. Response body text contains the raw body, while response JSON contains the parsed JSON data. You can inspect these values in the output panel. When the response contains a lot of data, compare the raw body text with the parsed response JSON. In this example, response JSON is an array. To read values from an array, use for each to loop through it, or get array item to retrieve one fixed item. For this demonstration, we'll use get array item. Set array source to API request. For data to use, select response JSON. Keep fixed index set to 0 to retrieve the first array item. Connect the node and run the flow again. The output shows index 0, which is the first item. It also reports that the complete array contains 10 items. Value contains the complete object from that array item. Because this value is an object, use pick field to retrieve a field from it. For example, set the field path to email. Save the configuration and run the flow again. Now inspect the pick field output. Value is the email address from the first item in the array. This is one way to process an API response when response JSON is an array. If the API returns an object instead, the extraction process is simpler. I prepared another URL for an object response. Replace the URL, then run the flow. The request has completed, so let's inspect its output. This response JSON is an object containing paths and status. Suppose we want to retrieve status from this object. Add a pick field node. Select API Request as the source node and response JSON as data to use. The object contains two keys, paths and status. Set field path to status, save the node, and connect it. Run the flow once more. The pick field value now contains the status text returned by the server. Next, let's look at the post method of API request. The method is already set to post. The URL points to a local test endpoint for file uploads. To upload a file, set body type to multipart. Then, choose a source node that provides a file, photo, screenshot, or another artifact. Let's look at two nodes that can supply an artifact for uploading. The first is screen capture under the vision category. Screen capture outputs the captured image as an artifact. That artifact can be passed to API request. Connect screen capture before API request. The flow first takes a screenshot, then uploads it to the specified server API. In API request, select screen capture as the source node. Set data to use to artifact, then save the configuration. Run the flow. The upload completes successfully. Now inspect the latest output. It shows method post, status code 200, the saved file path, and other information returned by the server. The second option, which may be used more often, reads a file from a fixed local path. Open the Files category and create a local file asset node. Local file asset also outputs an artifact. In its parameters, select the specific local file you want to use. For example, you could select a JSON file whose contents are updated each time an automation runs, then upload that file. Local file asset always reads from the selected fixed path. For this demonstration, select a screenshot file and save the node. Connect local file asset to API request. The file is first converted to an artifact, which is then passed to API request. Source node now lists both screen capture and local file asset. Select local file asset and keep data to use set to artifact. Save the node, then run the flow. The execution has completed. The response again shows status code 200 and a files entry. This information describes the uploaded file and the response returned by the server. That completes this introduction to API request and local file asset. Thanks, everyone.